Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots Monday Morning, where we go over the Sunday morning news shows that we watch so that you don't have to. I'm Katie Halper.
And I'm Aaron Maté. How are you, Katie?
I'm good, you?
I'm good. I'm good. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday, Monday morning.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, guys, I want to tell you that you're in luck. Why are you in luck? Because you have a unique opportunity to help create history and create media, the media landscape. And that is by liking the stream, because then we can beat back the corporate overlords who try to control our worlds and also try to get better numbers than, say, Pod Save America. So everyone who wants to be part of the future, please like. And anyone who doesn't like, you're helping Mark Zuckerberg. So I hope you can live with yourselves. Also, you're in luck because we are here for you. And we're going to be here for you right now, but also going to be here for you at 11 a.m. when we will be doing a call-in. And you get to just call in. We take your calls. So what's better than that? And the link to that is in the description.
The world's hottest after party on Monday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern time. There's no hotter after party than our call-in show at that time.
This is it. That's it. This is it. Yeah. And also make sure you subscribe to this channel. And also you can subscribe to usefulidiots.substack.com for great extra extended interviews, extended content. We're even doing a new weekly segment, Thursday Throwdown, which is for subscribers only. And I think you're really going to enjoy it this week. Last week, we analyzed Jake Tapper and Joe Biden, because the great thing about Thursday Throwdown is it lets us analyze media clips that are not on Sunday mornings.
There's just too much hackery out there. It's not enough to pack it into one show on Monday. We have to spread it out during the week, during the midweek, for the Thursday Throwdown. So sign up for that.
Yeah.
Well, should we get to it?
Yes, let's do it.
Back to the Chuckster. We're heading into the midterms, just days away, and the Chuckster of Meet the Press has a recap for us.
Now, 1 second. People are distracted because on the left. Okay, now we fixed it. There, Aaron's back on the left. Now I'm on the right. All right, cool.
Like a band, like a band playing, and you have your normal arrangement with the singer and the guitarist.
Right.
People don't like it when they switch.
Right. It's disoriented. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry for that, people.
A good Sunday morning, just 16 days until the election. 7 million Americans have already voted, and we have some brand new NBC poll numbers to share with you that indicate interest in this election is at an all-time high. Look at this. We record 70% of voters saying that interest in this election is a 9 or 10. That is higher than 18, higher than 14, higher than 10. And what's significant about 2018? That was the highest midterm turnout in 100 years. This indicates we're going to be even higher than that. Overall, the battle for congressional control, it's a dead even 47-46. But if you go under the hood of our poll, this brand new poll, you will see that among likely voters, Republicans have an advantage, and among the final group of persuadable voters, Republicans have the advantage. That is why it feels as if the wind has shifted a little bit here. We asked them, what message would you send with your vote to Congress? Democrats, the number one message clearly is protect women's rights. It goes along with all of those abortion rights ads we've been seeing among Democratic candidates. When you ask Republicans what message would they send, it's a bit mixed, quite a few of them. One that does stand out, though, is fix the economy, reduce the cost of living on that front. Now, presidential job approval is one of those numbers that seems to be indicative of which way the wind is blowing. So, President Biden sits at 45%. Where does that stand contextually? It's 2 points lower than Barack Obama in 2010. It's 2 points lower than Donald Trump in 2018. Both were wave elections against the party in the White House. Digging deeper here, we've got some all-time midterm highs that should serve as red flags for the Democrats. The wrong track, 71%, all-time midterm high since we've been polling. How about presidential disapproval on the economy, sitting at 57%? Again, we hadn't recorded that ever that high in our poll.
So that means he's not really spelling it out, but just to spell it out, he means that that means that 71% of the country think that the country is going on the wrong track, which is a record high and not a very strong endorsement of our current rulers. But will that lead to any kind of rethinking of anything? No.
Right.
No, not.
Right.
No, not. They're 100% full steam ahead. The people in power. So,
in fact, I think that people like Chuck just think that the answer is to watch more Meet the Press.
yes.
The third one, the direction of the economy. And the next year, is it going to get better or worse? 50% say it's going to get worse again, an all-time high in midterm polling. Going further here, this interest in the election, we told you, it's high.
That's really bleak. So our all-time record number of people think that things are only going to get worse on top of how bad things already are. And I'd say they're right. I'm with them.
Yeah.
I'm with them.
And that shows that's like it's almost like optimism. You're expecting it to get better. Well, worse. But the fact that you believe it can get worse is impressive.
Yeah, you can accept reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both sides. This 69% number for Democrats is astonishing. It's 78% among Republicans. That is an extra astonishing number, if you will. And the big gap here, African-American interest among Democrats, this is why you're going to see a lot of Barack Obama in the next 2 weeks. If the Democrats don't get interest in the election up among African-Americans, they're going to have some problems, particularly in some of those key Senate races. There is one lone bright spot.
It's pretty sad, I think, that to turn out the black vote, Democrats, all they can offer is Barack Obama.
Yeah, I know. No policy, just a face.
Yeah, Barack Obama, who lectured black people on how to dress and how to talk, and kicked out or oversaw a record number or a large number of black homeowners losing their homes. I mean, you can go down the list, but that's the best they got to offer is Barack Obama.
Yeah, that's their solution. How are we going to get the black vote? Offer anything? We're going to offer Barack.
Out here for Democrats, Biden is seen as his agenda a bit more agreeable than Trump's, though everybody is negative here. Do you agree with Joe Biden most of the time? 45% mirrors his job rating. 50% disagree with his agenda most of the time. How about Donald Trump? 36% agree. 56% disagree most of the time.
Fair enough. I mean, what is Donald Trump's agenda? It's just talking about himself constantly and how great he is and how he's going to save the country without offering any real policies, except for things like his tax heist, which was a massive robbery from the lower class to give to the ultra wealthy.
Right.
So that's, I mean, fair enough.
Yeah.
Don't really quite see an agenda there to agree with.
Right.
At least Biden sometimes says something that sounds like he has an agenda, even though his is not that different. But
right.
Yeah.
Right. And even though he's worse on nuclear war than Trump, but that's neither here nor there, just nuclear war.
Yeah, it's a tough political spectrum. Tough political spectrum.
If you want to call that a bright spot, there is one there for the Democrats. Here's another one here. Most important issue facing this country. Number one, for the second poll out of 3, threats to democracy. Number 2 and 3 are both.
Of course. All right. Jobs and economy and cost of living would be, under normal circumstances, one category, like the economy. But they want to make sure that threats to democracy is higher than anything else. So that's why they divided it up that way.
They are so slick. This is the second time they've done this. We've covered this before, where they do a poll, and because they're trying to manage our democracy and get us scared constantly about January 6th, the 3-hour riot, and things of that nature, they rig the polls so that people's own material well-being is not number one. And when you combine, as you say, jobs and economy with cost of living, it's higher than threats to democracy.
Right. You would get 35 versus 21. So they have to be funny if they parsed it out even more, like jobs and economy, cost of living, inflation,
wages.
Yeah. Yeah. Cup of Joe, coffee expenses. Yeah.
So really, I mean, the number one threat to democracy in this context is the poll makers rigging this poll.
Yeah, exactly.
They're threatening democracy.
Right. It's the media elites.
Unbelievable. It's so slick. God. And of course, Democratic voters are going to, weigh heavily towards this because all they've been hearing about on their media channels for the last, nearly 2 years is January 6th. And before that, Russiagate and how Russia was destroying our democracy. It never ends. So I'm actually surprised it's not even higher given the propaganda people have been subjected to.
Yeah, I mean, they might as well call the show Democracy Wow.
Economic related, jobs in the economy and cost of living. But this issue of threats to democracy rose to number 1 this summer after the start of the January 6 hearings.
Our institutions only hold when men and women of good faith make them hold, regardless of the political cost. We have no guarantee that these men and women will be in place next time. Any future president inclined to attempt what Donald Trump did in 2020 has now learned not to install people who could stand in the way.
Good life hack. She just
That is a good
offered
life hack.
for
If you're
election
gonna
deniers.
if you're gonna carry off a coup, don't install people who can block your coup.
Right.
Yeah. Who are gonna just reduce your coup attempt to a 3-hour riot led by the QAnon shaman.
Right.
It's not a very impressive coup. Look,
But
notice how
it wasn't a good thing.
no, it's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
But is it worth obsessing
Right.
about for
Yeah.
2 years and speaking about as if it was an insurrection that came close to overthrowing our government?
Right.
No, because
Right.
I don't think the QAnon shaman and his cohort were gonna take over power from Nancy Pelosi
Right.
and Chuck Schumer.
Would have been
But
cool if he had healed the world with his shamanic powers.
sure, yeah, I would have served the QAnon shaman if he was a good ruler.
Yeah.
I would have been a humble servant.
Yeah.
But he didn't make it that far, unfortunately. But notice how when they talk about threats to democracy, it's also a very narrow definition. They define it as basically, intra-elite feuds over who rules us. Threats to democracy are never, does the public have a role in making decisions that impact the country? Are politicians acting in the public interest, or are they owned by corporations? That's not considered a threat to democracy by the poll makers. It's only, does basically Donald Trump accept the next time he loses? That's essentially what it comes down to.
Right.
And of course, I mean, the one legitimate part is the attack on voting rights, the efforts to disenfranchise people. That is one part.
Yeah.
But notice how that's not what Democrats talk about most. They, that's like that's a small fraction of what they obsess about.
And it's certainly not what Liz Cheney talks about, because the way the voting rights are doled out, or really are deprived, of course, it affects mostly Democrats. So the people it disenfranchises are Democrats, felons, African Americans. With with felons, it's overt. With African Americans, it's not. It's just sneaky.
Yeah.
But Liz Cheney doesn't want those people to be able to vote anyway, so it's a win-win for her.
No. Possibly when she runs for the Democratic Party in 2024, maybe she'll change her mind on that.
Yeah,
but for now,
no.
No. I mean, as we'll get to, she voted with Trump 93% of the time when he was in office. So that's how much Cheney opposes the Trump agenda. All right. Well, so Well, the Chuckster, this is an exciting time for him with the midterms coming up. So he's got some data for us.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Data download time. A little bit more from our important NBC News poll. When you look at the most important issues of this election, a picture emerges of just two sets of voters and two Americas. And there's really only one issue both parties agree on, and it may be the most polarizing of them all. Let me just show you most important issue by party. Among Democrats, the number one issue is threats to democracy. Abortion rights comes in second, cost of living third, climate change fourth.
Just want to point out that if climate change were actually discussed by the media elites, maybe that the issue, that importance would go up. Just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a threat to the world. But
Absolutely.
I guess it's not very sexy. / it conflicts with their funders.
And if you look at television advertising, really abortion rights is what you see more than threats to democracy. Among Republicans, the top three issues, jobs and the economy is one. Immigration and the border, which you actually see in advertising more, is number two. Cost of living is really the only issue that is in the top four among both Republicans and Democrats. But here's the real issue that both parties actually agree on. Will the other party's agenda destroy America? 81% of Democrats believe this about Republicans. 79% of Republicans believe this about Democrats. Now ask yourself, how's anybody going to bring this country together when right now this is what the two parties think of each other? When we come back, why political chaos is not a uniquely American trait these days.
We're done with that. So that's great.
But my question is, I mean, so such a high percentage of both parties thinks the other party will destroy the country, but what percentage of people would actually tell the other party to their face, like say they run into each other at the voting booth, that they think that the other's agenda will destroy the country? That's a pretty harsh charge.
That is a harsh charge. And let's see, you know, if these people were honest, they would be saying that.
Yeah.
They should be shouting it from the rooftops / to their coworkers.
But for me, it'd be awkward. If I thought someone else's agenda would destroy the country, I'd have a hard time telling that to their face. I would.
Right.
You know?
So
That's a
we're
pretty harsh
walking around
accusation.
lying to each other, basically.
We're lying.
We're lying. We're wearing masks.
Let's get authentic, people. Let's tell everyone the truth.
Yeah,
let's get out there.
Masks
tell your neighbor
off.
you think they're going to destroy the country.
Yeah. Masks off, yeah. All right, let's go to we got some this is good. We don't need to watch the whole thing. Let's just watch a little bit of this. This is candidates making the final pleas before the midterms.
From Pennsylvania,
Dr. Oz celebrated when Roe v. Wade fell.
to Arizona.
Hello, Arizona.
Democratic and Republican.
That's it. I just wanted to give us a little celebratory praising music. Gotta have a friend in Jesus.
All right, yeah. Some upbeat tracks on the campaign trail.
Yeah, and that was
people are fired up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what an exciting time. What a joyful time of
it's a good time to have a friend in Jesus. I mean, given all that's happening, all the bad news that we've just been covering. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a good song.
It is a good song.
All right. Well,
we got good news for you guys.
Yeah.
We got more Liz Cheney, which means more democracy.
Yeah. So Liz Cheney, you know, as most people know, lost her primary race in Wyoming. So this is her last few months in office. And I really think it's the kickoff of her future as a Democratic Party nominee, because the Democrats have done such a great job in recent years of basically bringing in all those people who like brought us to war in Iraq and ruined the world back under the Bush administration. Democrats have pretty much welcomed all of them into their tent. It's a very, very big tent for neocons. And so Liz Cheney is sort of the leading light of that bunch. And because she took on Trump, because she didn't think Trump was basically a good steward of the U.S. war machine that she is 100% behind, she turned against him. And so because of that, she's become a Democratic Party hero. So now I think she's making the final rounds, you know, as a Congress member, but I think she has a bright political future as a Democrat.
Right. I think so too. Let's see what she has to say.
Kevin McCarthy, you clearly think this is a mistake, that he will, you are concerned about his speakership. What specifically concerns you?
Well, look, the speaker is second in line to the presidency. And at every moment since, frankly, the aftermath of the election in 2020, when Minority Leader McCarthy has had the opportunity to do the right thing or do something that serves his own political purpose, he always chooses to serve his own political purpose. And, you know, that extends to what we've seen just in the last few days with these comments about aid to Ukraine. The idea that somehow the party is now no longer going to support the Ukrainian people, which, you know, for somebody who has a picture of Ronald Reagan on the wall of his office in the Capitol, the notion that now Kevin McCarthy is going to make himself the leader of the pro-Putin wing of my party is just a stunning thing. It's dangerous. He knows better. But the fact that he's willing to go down the path of suggesting that America will no longer stand for freedom, I think tells you he's willing to sacrifice everything for his own political gain.
Yeah, so listen, this is our political spectrum right now. We have the entire Democratic Party, including Bernie Sanders and the squad, lining up to vote for every single bill funding the Ukraine proxy war and giving billions of dollars to the military-industrial complex. And then you have Republicans, a small faction who have voted against this, but still the leadership, including Kevin McCarthy, has supported this. But now going into an election, McCarthy, I think, recognizing that people are tired of spending billions of dollars in taxpayer money to go to a catastrophic proxy war, he's played into that sentiment a little bit by suggesting that Republicans might revisit the policy of just blank checks for the Ukraine proxy war. I don't think he actually will.
Right.
I don't think. Yeah. But just even the mere suggestion that they might take a look at it has been enough to set off neocons like Liz Cheney. And so now she feels empowered to accuse him of leading the pro-Putin wing of her party, because she leads the pro-proxy war axis of both parties, essentially. She unites all Democrats with also a lot of Republicans, including the leadership. So personally, I don't think she has much to worry about in terms of McCarthy.
Yeah, and she, I like the idea that she knows what's on his wall. Do you think he's like, Liz, come here, I want to show you something? See that man right there? The Gipper.
Yeah, and that speaks to, look, we're talking about a President Reagan who oversaw the dirty wars in Central America, helped prop up dictators there, oversaw Iran Contra.
Right.
One of the most
And ruined the economy and ruined the labor movement.
I mean, just one of the most monstrous administrations, I think, in history. Only did one good thing, basically, which was, or a few good things. One of them was arms control. They did do arms control with the Soviet Union, which, by the way, now the neocon wing of both parties is tearing up because we're pulling out of all those nuclear treaties. But here she is basically trying to once again make Ronald Reagan the standard bearer of what a Republican is. And that's pretty much what Democrats and Republicans in her wing of the party are adopting, is they all want to be Reaganites on foreign policy. And anybody who deviates from that is a part of a pro-Putin wing.
Right. He also refused to talk about HIV/AIDS for a very long time.
Oh, yeah. And suppressed basically research into it that could have found a cure earlier, or found treatment earlier.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, we can go down the long list, but the fact is, like, he got such he was revered by both parties because he was quote unquote tough on foreign policy. It was a complete cult of personality,
and tough on crime. That's another thing. Yeah.
I mean,
right.
yeah. Such a horrible list.
Bad dude. He reminds me of Corn Pop in that he's a bad dude.
He's a bad dude. Yeah. And not bad in a good way.
No. Exactly. Yeah. All right. What do we got next? Oh, we got a little bit more Liz. A little bit more Lizzie.
Is the committee open to his supposed offer, or at least behind-the-scenes offer, of going on live television?
So the committee treats this matter with great seriousness, and we are going to proceed in terms of the questioning of the former president under oath. Mm-hmm. It may take multiple days. And it will be done with a level of rigor and discipline and seriousness that it deserves. We are not going to allow the former president. He's not going to turn this into a circus. This isn't going to be, his first debate against Joe Biden and the circus and the food fight that became. This is far too serious set of issues, and we've made clear exactly what his obligations are, and we are proceeding with that set out.
They waited until the very end of their existence to subpoena Trump. So I don't have strong confidence that they're actually serious about trying to question him, because if they were, why didn't they do this when they started over a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of Trump's testimony being live. So that's apparently what he offered, is to do it live, huh? Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that would make me tune in. It's about the only
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what a shame it would be if we no longer get primetime hearings on January 6th.
Yeah.
This was such a hit. But I agree. I would tune in if Trump was testifying, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Well, we're going to bring you another face of democracy, and that face belongs to Nancy Pelosi, who is on Face the Nation.
You have said a lot is going to be determined by turnout, but you've heard our CBS estimates have the Republicans taking the House with 224 seats. How do you shift the momentum?
Well, let's just say, first and foremost, good morning. It's Sunday morning, 15 days or so before the election. People are already voting. We're very pleased with our early vote for our Owning the Ground initiative.
She did a good morning. It's Sunday morning. Remember, didn't she do that with a good morning? It's Monday morning.
Yeah, good morning, Monday morning. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she did it again.
So is this her thing?
It's a tick.
It's like every morning she does that line. Good morning. It's Tuesday morning. Okay.
Oh my God! Imagine how much that must drive her husband crazy.
Yeah, but he's good. He's too busy looking at his stock portfolio.
Right. Yeah.
Making money off the tips that she's totally not giving him.
Right.
With her position as the Speaker of the House, as they amass their multi-million-dollar fortune, maybe even billion at this point.
Maybe that's what drives him to do that. It's the constant good morning Wednesday morning, good morning Thursday morning, good morning Friday morning.
That's the secret to be a successful investor, everybody.
Yes.
Have a chippy, a chipper morning mantra
Yeah.
Like Good Morning Monday morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not being married into a well-connected political family.
No, it's not that. People don't understand that. Yeah.
Positive thinking.
Yeah. The power of positive thinking. Yeah.
It's interesting to me because for a year and a half, the media has been saying, "Oh, it's gone. President's party always loses in the off year," and now we're down to the stretch, and we're down to very close races, and we feel very confident. I've been in over 20 states since Congress adjourned in the last month or so, and I see very clearly that the ownership of the ground is with us. It's about getting out the vote. Everything else is a conversation compared to that. But in order to do that, you have to have inspiration. You can't run on empty. And the fact is that when I hear people talk about inflation, as I heard him there, we have to change that subject. Inflation is a global phenomenon.
Yes.
The EU, the European Union, the UK, the British.
Did you catch that? She says, when it comes to inflation, we have to change the subject.
Yeah.
It's not a good strategy, I don't think.
You don't say, well, it's also not a good strategy to say that out loud. She's like trying to train Margaret Brennan. Like, Margaret, when they say inflation, you change the subject. Inflation, change subject. Inflation, change subject. Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, you know, her argument here is that, you know, inflation's, it's a global thing. It's it's kind of like, well, like, what can we do about it?
Everyone's doing it.
Everyone's doing it. Exactly. Yeah. As if like the policies of the world's most powerful country, which is currently in the midst of a proxy war against another major country, might have something to do with it.
Right.
No, you know, it's just, it's a thing going around.
If you think that's a good excuse, wait till this next one. Okay. Let's go.
Have higher inflation rate than we do here. It's not, the fight is not about inflation, it's about the cost of living. And if you look at what we have done to bring down the cost of prescription drugs, to bring down the cost of energy and the rest in our legislation, you will see that that has been opposed every step of the way by the Republicans. And
So that's true. The Republicans are such ghouls that they have opposed things that could improve people's lives, like lowering the cost of prescription drugs. The problem that she leaves out, though, is that when she says that we've lowered the cost of living and she gives prescription drugs as a first example, those measures that they put in don't kick in until 2025 or something like that.
Yeah, no one's going to feel them for a while.
Yeah. And they only apply to a very small category of prescription drugs. It's like, I think you can count them on two hands. So she's leaving that when she talks about doing enacting policies that improve people's lives, she's forgetting that they don't kick in for another few years and are pretty selective.
Right. And of course, inflation is related to cost of living.
Yeah, of course. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
they have no plan for lowering the cost of living or helping with inflation.
That's true. All right.
That's true. That's true.
Now, the Democrats don't have much of a plan either, but they're not attacking the welfare state as aggressively as the Republicans are. To the extent that we have a welfare state, we really don't. But
exactly, and that's why Democrats always have an out, because they can always just point to the Republicans and they can say these people are just ghouls.
Yeah,
and they have nothing to offer people to except for people at the very top. I mean, that's just an established fact. I mean, look at Trump again. What was his only major legislative achievement? It was a tax cut that disproportionately benefited the wealthy.
Yeah, that's my upward transfer of wealth gesture.
I got it.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you know what I was talking about. Yeah. Well, I want to make sure everyone in the audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What do we got next? Oh, we got some more Nancy.
Absolutely, inflation is a global problem, and it's hitting a lot of countries very hard. But there is also that question of fiscal spending. Congressman Jim Clyburn, who serves in leadership alongside you, said the following earlier this week.
All of us are concerned about these rising costs, and all of us knew this would be the case when we put in place this recovery program. Anytime you put more money into the economy, prices tend to rise.
Did you also realize at that time that the congressional spending would add to inflation? Did you see that risk then?
Well, first of all, government spending does. We had a pandemic, And that brought down unemployment from 7% to 3.5% now. It put people back to work, children back in school, inoculations in the arm, and it helped take us through that phase of the pandemic. But let me just say that because of more people working and the rest, the deficit has been cut in half from 2.8 to 1.4.
Okay, couple things. One is, I don't know who writes Clyburn's talking points, but that is the dumbest thing to say. He's basically blaming Democrats for the prices going up. Really bad PR. Just 101. Sorry, what were we going to say, Aaron?
Well, and he's blaming it on spending, on
spending,
social welfare
right?
spending.
Exactly, right. Good point. Not on helping fight this, fund this proxy war that is wreaking havoc on the entire world. Right. It's because they're spending money. So basically, you see this and you're a voter, and you, to the extent that you pay attention what people say like this or believe them at face value, he's basically undermining the social spending, totally feeding into this narrative that social spending is to blame for people's economic insecurity. And now Nancy's going to follow this up by pretending the deficit matters. So let's hear what she says.
$1 trillion. That is a big change. So it's from 2.8 to 1.4 trillion dollars. That and the rest. The deficit has been cut in half from 2.8 to 1.4 trillion dollars. That is a big change. So yes, we have to take a step forward to solve the pandemic problem, but we did so in a way that would reduce the national deficit, and that cannot be ignored.
Yeah, it cannot be ignored because it's something that shouldn't have been a priority. And this is a right-wing talking point and also right-wing policy. You think people are like, well, I can't afford milk, but you know what? I'm really glad that we knocked out some of that deficit.
Yeah, so, granted, this is not my wheelhouse, this economic stuff, but I've never heard someone, an average person talk to me about the deficit and being worried about the deficit.
Right.
It only seems to come up, on the cable news shows.
How are you doing these days? Well, it's really hard for me to afford gas. I have to cut back on how much I go out to eat. I have to cut back on, my Netflix subscription. But on the positive, on the plus side, of course, is the deficit is going down. So, we all make our choices. Yeah.
Things like sending, those $1,400 checks, putting cash out there.
That's right.
I mean, didn't that end up contributing to inflation? Do you have any regrets about the bills you passed and how you structured them?
No.
So it's
absolutely not, because
it's not corporate greed that is harming people and price gouging. It's actually, according to Margaret Brennan, what it is giving people money. That's responsible.
Do you have any regret about giving working people some spare change?
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
On a scale,
Will you apologize to the country right now? Yeah.
On a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being a terrible decision, 10 being the worst decision ever, where would you rate that? Where does that fall?
And again, military spending is never brought up as something that could possibly be contributing to inflation, even though every year Congress comes together to approve a new record increase.
Right.
This year it was like over 700 billion, maybe more. It's just unbelievable, and that's never in the conversation.
It's fun. Yeah, of course it's never. No one is like, how are you going to pay for that war? It's always like, how are you going to cover the deficit, which again has no bearing on people's lives, as opposed to wars, which do have bearings on people's lives, both the people fighting the wars, but also as we're seeing the worldwide economy. This is a funny comment. OMG, they still brag about this one fucking $1,400 check. It was for 1 month in 28 months or whatever. Jesus Christ, the insanity. It is true that they are. It was very insufficient. And also at the same time, somehow, according to Margaret Brennan, it had the power to destroy the economy.
And it wasn't even what they promised, which was $2,000.
Right. Well, thank God, right, Aaron? Thank God they didn't give the $2,000.
Yeah.
It would have ruined the economy even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Imagine the harm done if they'd just given the whole 2,000.
And this is as people, working people lost jobs because of the lockdowns and the havoc of the pandemic. And so they got one check for $1,400, and Margaret Brennan wants Nancy Pelosi to atone for that.
Yeah. Yes. Will you, on Face the Nation, face the music and apologize?
That's right. holding them accountable.
Yeah.
Accountable. Yeah. All right.
Right. We have more, I think, from that clip, right? A little bit.
It's necessary for people to survive. Our purpose
was that it was inflationary.
But the point is that when you reduce unemployment, it's inflationary. That is a fact. When I was a new member of Congress, I was told that unemployment was dangerously low in our hearings on inflation and unemployment. Unemployment is dangerously low for what it does to inflation. But the fact is
Yeah, actually, you know what? I don't know if she's referring to this, but around that time, Alan Greenspan, who was the chair of Clinton's Federal Reserve, testified that we need to keep wages low because otherwise, if we keep them high, that will give workers basically too much power. And what we need is what he called growing worker insecurity.
Right.
And he was bragging about that, that he did that. So anyway,
we
these are
can't starve them, but we can make them a lot more insecure.
Yeah.
A lot more precarious. Yeah.
And these are the economic geniuses who run our society. And Alan Greenspan, by the way, married to Andrea Mitchell of NBC News. You know, so okay. Should we hear more of this clip?
Yeah. Just let her
point is that this is about helping America's working families meet their needs, and that was essential to them. Less inflationary than a $2 trillion tax cut for the high end that the Republicans gave, and we're still paying a price for $2 trillion, 83% of the benefits going to the top 1%. So we feel proud of what we've done. We feel proud of the
That's true. You see, again,
Yeah,
it goes back to what we were saying before. They can always point to Republicans being worse on these issues because Republicans are just that much more devoted to serving the ultra wealthy, a little bit more than Democrats are, which is tough to beat because Democrats are super devoted to the ultra wealthy as well.
Right.
Republicans are just that much more subservient, I guess. And again, look, it's like this also gives the illusion of having some kind of like rigorous democratic debate because like this CBS host is allowed to pretend that they're asking tough questions,
right.
which is based on the presumption that giving average people a little bit of money, a small amount of money, is somehow catastrophic for the economy. And that is what we have to debate: is like, are we being too generous to the plebes,
to the poors?
You know? Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah,
it's so sick.
It's so sick.
I mean, while she's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and interviewed by someone who's probably worth, I don't know, whatever the host worth is, but something, that is way bigger than most average Americans. And that's who runs our discussion, our policy discussions.
Right. Also, unrelated note, but what is that? What do you think that animal is on her brooch?
Oh, I'm guessing that's some sort of eagle or something.
Eagle, okay.
Yeah, a bird, yeah.
I see. It almost looks like a rooster. From here, but
okay.
Maybe it's a phoenix that'll rise up from the ashes.
A rooster would make sense because of her morning theme.
You're right. Cock-a-doodle-doo. Good morning, Monday morning. Yeah. A peacock? Yeah. Oh, it could be a peacock. Yeah. A bird. Okay. Yeah. Hyena. Someone's saying, yeah. By the way, where are we up on our likes? This has been a great Monday morning. Wilson, where are we at? It's a Ukrainian pheasant, someone writes. A vulture.
We got 727 right now.
Guys, not even half.
Close, not even half, and we have 3 different sex bots in the chat today somehow.
All right, guys, sex bots, you better, we'll let you stay if you like this.
Yeah, they're usually the ones doing all the work, which means everybody else is really lagging today.
Yeah, come on. Guys, let's get some likes up. Let's get to, where are we? 700?
824.
824?
Yeah.
All right, let's go up to 1,000. Yeah, that's right. Everyone who hasn't liked, like. If you've already liked, don't like again.
Remember, like an odd number of times.
Oh, yeah. And let's see, is that true? Is that true? Andrea, someone's saying that Andrea Mitchell's net worth is $5 million. She makes $750,000 a year. See, even when we make you like the stream, we give you information. Okay, where are we at now?
927.
Okay, we're almost there, guys. Guys, you got to look in the mirror. Look at the man in the mirror and ask him to change his ways if he's a man who does not like this show.
I think right now Nancy's motion with her hand could be moving it as fast as she can to smash the like button.
That's true, yeah. She's either smashing the like button or she's like, what are you guys doing? Why aren't you liking this?
All right. Well, so
Where
we're
we
going
at
to
now?
stay on this and on this inflation theme because Bernie had something to say too, right?
Yeah.
And he was on CNN State of the Union.
But to play devil's advocate here, if I'm a swing voter out there, a young voter, a working class voter, I hear your message, I think, but you guys control everything. Democrats control the House and the Senate and the White House, and inflation is really high, and I'm having a tough time making ends meet. Why should I vote for you again?
Well, we have half the votes, exactly half the votes in the Senate, and a tiny majority in the House. And I think it's important that when we talk about inflation, Republicans will say, well, this is Joe Biden's fault. Really? Our inflation rate is much too high. It is 8%. It is 10% in the UK, 10% throughout Europe, 7% in Canada. Inflation is a global problem caused, by the breaking of supply chains because of the pandemic, by the war in Ukraine, and as I said, significant part of inflation has to do with corporate greed. What are the Republicans' response to inflation? What do they want to do? Well, maybe they want to cut wages for workers. Do they want to raise the minimum wage? No, they don't. So I think it's important to take the attack to the Republicans. What do they want to do other than complain? But bottom line is, you cannot cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, which is what they want to do. We have got to lower prescription drug costs, which is not what they want to do.
So notice what Bernie says that no one else says. Corporate greed. And it is a huge part of inflation. It's true. Richard Wolff will talk about this. It's just the only thing that sets inflation. It's not a natural process. It's people setting prices.
100% agree. And I think Bernie's message is very strong there, obviously. But again, I have to point out, Bernie is voting in lockstep to fuel the Ukraine proxy war, has said nothing. He said zero about the need for Biden to engage in diplomacy, as Biden's policy openly is to sabotage diplomacy and to block diplomacy. And so when Bernie acknowledges that the war in Ukraine is a part of the reason, he's overlooking his own role in letting it continue.
Right.
Because if he wanted to, he could stand up and say something. He hasn't. And as much as I agree with him on everything else he said, I just think that has to be noted.
Yeah, we got it. We're calling him out on that. All right. Oh, speaking of war in Ukraine and Armageddon, let's go to the next clip.
Oh yeah, well, this is exciting, everybody. So you know how we're like sort of teetering on the verge of World War III. Well, CBS News got an exclusive kind of sneak preview of what World War III might look like and who's taking part.
The Screaming Eagles have landed. The 101st Airborne Division deployed on the very edge of NATO territory.
Go, 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 go!
With Colonel Edwin Mathaidis and Brigadier General John Lubis, we board Black Hawk helicopters and head toward the border with Ukraine. Specifically trained to hit the ground fighting. When the call came, the colonel said his soldiers were ready.
And you could see it on their face that all that stuff we had talked about being ready, about training hard, not leaving anything on the table. They had a chance to put it into use, and they're doing that same stuff here today.
Right. It just got real.
It did.
Just got real.
It just got real.
So excited.
How is this different than a kid going on a field trip to like a military base and being shown around like, look, little boy, look, we're blowing something up.
Right.
Wow, it just got real. It just got real.
It just got real. Well, how is this different, Aaron, from your career as a child actor?
Yeah, not that different.
Celebrating the
Promoting
military
militarism.
industrial-
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Wait, so, like you're calling me a hypocrite for calling
No,
this
I'm
out.
not. You were a child. You didn't have free will at that point. For
No, I
those who
wasn't.
don't know, Aaron was in a commercial for what was it for? It was for a game,
It was
war
for a
game,
toy. It was
a
for
toy, like
Yeah.
a gun.
Yeah, like there's some guns involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, so really, I'm speaking as an insider.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
almost
exactly.
a military veteran
Right,
at this
himself.
point
Yeah,
because I did play a general in this
he
ad.
did play a general, so Aaron knows what it's like when it gets real.
But I also played a terrorist too, Katie. It was a well-rounded acting job. I played the general and the terrorist. So
The same commercial?
Same commercial, yeah. Wow. Yeah. But look, so it's look. So what this is this U.S. division, the 101st Airborne, I think it is deployed next to Ukraine. They're training for a fight with Russia, and they're touring around the CBS journalist as if this is some exciting thing. They're preparing for a world war, and we're supposed to be encouraged by this. This is crazy.
Traverse the Black Sea coast across the water from Russian-held territory in Ukraine and Crimea until we reach the forward operating site, where soon U.S. and Romanian NATO forces were conducting a joint air and ground assault. Live-fire tank and artillery rounds took aim at targets, simulating the battlefields of Ukraine. This isn't a routine military exercise against a hypothetical enemy. This is a real-life combat scenario against a very real enemy, one that's not so far away.
We're about 250 miles.
Could you slobber over the possibility of World War III anymore?
Well, it's interesting you say that because I'm just going to rewind a little bit. We don't need the sound, but look at that. You see what he's doing with his hands?
Oh, I see it.
That's so he doesn't go like this or like this. Excitement. He's holding himself back.
Yeah, he's worked on that with his personal, with his life coach. All right, Charlie.
Exactly.
So we're talking about war. We got to find ways to, curb your enthusiasm.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we're gonna try this hand motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold this.
That's gonna keep you together. Keep them together.
Yeah. Keep it together.
Okay? Yeah.
All right.
Exercise against a hypothetical enemy. This is a real-life combat scenario against a very real enemy, one that's not so far away.
This is not just hypothetical. This is a real exercise against a real enemy that's pretty close to here. So we can get World War III launching any day now.
Yeah. So exciting, guys.
We're about 250 miles from the front line of Russian troops. And the way we are dispersed right now, we are ready to transition from our current locations where we're currently at to combat operations on order.
Can you smell Russian blood from here? Is 250 miles? Is that close enough to smell Russian blood? Can I pick up a little whiff of it?
Yeah.
It's the first time the 101st has been headquartered in Europe since the D-Day landings, seen here with then General Dwight Eisenhower, prepared to defend European allies again if called upon to fight. Now.
Because the last time they did that was World War II.
Right.
So this time that would make it World War III.
Yeah.
Almost 80 years later, the 101st is back.
Go.
Making a mark in history once more. Those military exercises come at a time when broader NATO nuclear exercises are underway, now entering the second week. They involve 60 aircraft from 14 countries, including U.S. B-52 bombers. They were scheduled long before the war in Ukraine began.
So if you thought training for World War III was scary, wait till I tell you what else is going on. We're training for nuclear war as well. Wow. Great news.
He's too excited. He can bear. He does need to. He needs his media coach needs to give him more tips for curbing his enthusiasm.
Yeah, but the problem is his bosses love it. I mean, that's what they're there to do. That's why the Pentagon is inviting them on board. That's why they're embedding is to do an advertorial for World War III.
He's so excited. Well, we got more international intrigue for you coming up right now.
Oh yeah, okay. So right now there's again another round of fear mongering about disinformation, and so we're going to hear from a former government official. This is Chris Krebs, who was the head of a division of the Department of Homeland Security under Trump to do with cyber warfare, and he's really made a name for himself playing into the whole Russian disinformation racket, and so he's on CBS to talk about it.
Kind of amazing, Chris, that there isn't more scrutiny. I mean, there is FCC scrutiny of ownership of news organizations. Right. When it comes to social media and a company like TikTok, it's owned by a Chinese firm. An increasing number of Americans are relying on it for actual news, not just tweeting about themselves, but actual news. Is this a risk?
Well, I think just to your point, as more people use these platforms, as they get more information, as they're shifting away from traditional media that we're all used to, the intelligence services of our adversary are seeing this shift as well. And so it's not necessarily specifically about TikTok. It's all platforms and it's all avenues. But TikTok represents a specific risk. And a colleague of mine wrote a paper, Dakota Carey wrote a paper for Cyberscoop, talking about how it's not necessarily the data security challenges. It's that the Chinese Communist Party may have the ability through the parent company of TikTok to actually shape narratives, suppress, lift, shape what we see on a daily basis.
Gel, congeal,
sculpt,
whittle, yes, paint, brush. Yeah, what they're freaking out about is basically that somebody else except for U.S. oligarchs might have an influence over the minds of people in America. It's their job. It's their domain to brainwash people and give them propaganda. The idea that some alternative could come along or people could get alternative sources of information, this is grounds for fear-mongering and a scary graphic behind them.
It's a great look. You can almost see the Chinese bad stuff in the background.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be everything you see all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It can just be enough.
Yeah.
It can just be enough, a little bit. And I think about what
just a little, just a whiff.
Yeah, just a
smidgen.
A smidge. Yeah. Abyssal. Yeah.
What happens if the Chinese invade Taiwan? What happens in the run-up to the 24 election if they're not happy with some of the more, the stronger stance that this administration is taking in China? There's a significant amount of risk exposure we have here.
What does happen if they invade Taiwan?
Yeah, what is the risk? I mean, if they invade Taiwan, how is that a risk to the U.S.?
Cybersecurity.
Yeah.
It's part of the same war, Aaron. You gotta connect the dots.
Yeah. Well, luckily they can bring their CBS correspondent over to Taiwan to preview World War 3.5 or World War 4 over there. If there still is a world left. All right. Well, we have more from this segment. So, this is Kara Swisher, who's a tech journalist, and she has some thoughts about the current controversy with Elon Musk looking to buy Twitter, and Elon Musk recently putting out a poll on Twitter asking people if they would support a peace proposal, and because he did that, he got attacked by everybody, by the corporate media, by the Ukrainian government, being accused of spreading Russian propaganda just because he put out a poll asking people if they would support a peace deal that would basically keep Crimea as a part of Ukraine, which I know is a really important issue for news pundits and people inside the Biden administration. Not quite, I think, a top issue for average people. But anyway, let's hear what Kara Swisher has to say.
Here on this, Russia watcher Fiona Hill said Putin plays the egos of big men, gives them a sense that they can play a role, but in reality, they're just direct transmitters of messages from Vladimir Putin. She just gutted Elon Musk when he was pushing pro-Russia position.
She gutted him when he put out a poll on Twitter asking people if they'll support a peace deal about who rules Eastern Ukraine.
Right.
Nailed him.
Well, Aaron, I was going to say, how does she know? Is she a therapist? Is she a psychologist? She's doing this armchair psychology about, egos of big men. But then I realized, you know what? She's a Russia watcher.
She's a Russia watcher. Yes.
Look,
this is basically the Russiagate playbook. They talk about the Russian playbook, the Russia playbook. This is the Russiagate playbook. Basically, anybody who says anything that somewhat challenges the neocon consensus that we have to have terminal warfare, perpetual warfare with Russia, anyone who challenges that in any meaningful way, all of a sudden they are being manipulated by Putin. So now Putin somehow, I don't know how, has manipulated Elon Musk into putting out a poll on Twitter about whether people favor a peace deal in Ukraine. That can't just be Elon Musk saying, let's see if people want to favor this proposal for averting a nuclear holocaust.
Right.
It has to be into the pseudo psychology of Vladimir Putin playing with the ego of an insecure man.
You know how I think he did it? I think Vlad did it through TikTok. Because of that security threat.
Because that security threat. That's right.
I mean, is it really that? I mean, are our adversaries using business icons to further their foreign policy?
Why, yes.
See, the Russians have used everyone.
Oh my God.
The Russians have used Facebook memes. The Russians have used Black Lives Matter. The Russians used Colin Kaepernick. That was the conspiracy theory of Kamala Harris, who said that the Russians started the Colin Kaepernick controversy. The Russians can use everything.
They also were responsible for the Black Lives Matter protests, for the George Floyd protests, according to Susan Rice.
Exactly.
And they're, of course, using you and me right now as we speak.
Of course. Of course.
As many people have pointed out.
Yeah. Who knows if they're, not using everyone here at this table too.
Right. Kara Switcher may be unwitting. I cannot believe this. Okay, so what's the final word here?
It's happened before. I don't know if you've heard about President Donald Trump. I mean, people have talked about that. So yeah, I think.
Yeah, so she's saying that the Russians used Donald Trump, and she's making an oblique reference to the conspiracy theory that these people used to talk about every single day for 4 years, which they don't really anymore because this whole thing about the president being a Russian agent and being blackmailed with P-tapes. Yeah. Okay. We didn't really find out what really happened there. Let's just move on and forget we fixated on that for 4 years.
And yet I'm going to just do a callback and say it's happened before.
Exactly. Yeah. As they're talking about the threats of disinformation.
Right. They're showing, not telling.
Exactly.
Elon's doing this on his own, but he's a lot of people in Silicon Valley are also mouthing the same thing. There's sort of a certain class of tech bros that are into this idea.
But you still think this transition?
Well, they have no foreign policy experience, so they have no business doing this, but it doesn't stop them, which is about everything. They're experts on everything. Case.
How dare people, these tech bros who are putting out polls and ideas about peace and not having nuclear war. They're not foreign policy experts.
Yeah,
they have no business.
Sit down and shut up.
Let's leave it to the foreign policy experts who gave us the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Yemen, and so on. They're the experts. They're the ones who we should be listening to.
Yeah.
Because they're the richest people in the world, in case you didn't know. So I think it's slightly dangerous. I don't know, Chris.
A little bit.
We could keep talking about this. I want to keep talking about this, but I have to take a break here.
I mean, it's slightly dangerous for rich people to be saying that a war should end. Can I just hear her? Can we play that again? Just the very end. Wilson, put it back. I just want to hear.
We turn now to
slightly dangerous. I don't know, Chris.
Hold on.
They're not happy with some of the more, the stronger stance that this administration is taking against China. There are a significant amount of risk exposure.
Wait, this is the China one. I mean the one that we just watched.
Yeah, put it to the end.
Yeah, like here. Hold on.
I think it's
be enough. Yeah. It can just be enough, a little bit. And I think about what happened
into this idea.
But you still think this transition?
Well, they have no foreign policy experience, so they have no business doing this, but it doesn't stop them, which is about everything.
To actually shape narratives, suppress, lift, shape what we see on a daily basis. And it doesn't have to be everything you see all the time. It can just be enough. Yeah. It can just be enough, a little bit. And I think about what happens if the Chinese invade Taiwan. What happens in the run-up to the 24 election if they're not happy with some of the more...
What clip do you want, Katie?
The Russia clip. The one that we just played where she was talking about Elon Musk.
Yeah. I'm putting it there.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
I mean, is it really that? I mean, are our adversaries using business icons to further their foreign policy?
Why, yes, that's happened before. I don't know if you've heard about President Donald Trump. I mean, people have talked about that. So yeah, I think Elon's doing this on his own, but he's a lot of people in Silicon Valley are also mouthing the same thing.
There's sort of something very subversive.
Tech bros that are into this
Elon's
idea.
doing this on his own.
Think this transition?
Well, they have no foreign policy experience.
He's not. She's suggesting he may not be controlled by Putin.
Yeah. Right. Yes. Yeah. Imagine that. But look, it's like that. This is they're trying to stigmatize calls for diplomacy.
Right. Yes, as Putin.
The idea that someone could do that because there's influential people in Silicon Valley. David Sachs is another one who's been basically calling for negotiations for diplomacy, and so then they have to be mocked and subjected to armchair pseudo psychology that Putin is playing into their egos. This is just what you do. Like neocons weaponize everything, so nothing is off limits to be weaponized. So in this case, it's psychology, and it's it's a criticism of Silicon Valley culture, tech bros to basically in the service of neocon bros to continue a proxy war. That's what they're doing.
So disgusting. All right, well, guys, we got more for you coming up right now. We're going to see you at Call-In. So we know you're really excited. You're like this. We know you're like this right now. To curb your enthusiasm. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're as excited. It's hard to be as excited for World War III as CBS News is, but hopefully you can get excited for a call and join us right now. And for more, usefulidiots.substack.com.
Yes. Bye, everyone. Thanks
for watching.
Everybody.